Welcome back, everyone. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here for today's Explainer, where we are stepping deep into the thick, dark jungles of rural folklore. We're going to unpack a truly chilling supernatural tale. It's a story all about ambition, some seriously blinding jealousy, and a terrifying, shape-shifting water spirit. By breaking down the events and the mythology today, we're going to see exactly how a simple village rivalry spiraled into a literal nightmare. Okay, let's dive right into this. What happens when petty human jealousy awakens a dark, ancient evil hiding in the village pond? It's a fascinating premise, isn't it? We usually think of monsters as these random, chaotic forces of nature. But in this mystery, the horrific creature is practically summoned by the absolute worst aspects of human nature. This isn't just your standard monster story. It's a terrifying look at consequence. Section 1. The Roots of Jealousy. Because listen, every good horror story starts with a very human failing, right? Before any of the supernatural stuff even kicks off, we really have to understand the toxic dynamic going on in this village. So on one side, we have Manoj. He's an orphan, he's incredibly hardworking, and his ultimate dream is actually so pure. He's studying his heart out to open the village's very first government hospital. But on the other side, we have our trio of bullies, Nitin, Prathamesh, and Mohit. Now, these three went off to the city together to make something of themselves, and, well, they completely failed. They came back with nothing but resentment. And instead of, working on themselves, they direct all that bitter, toxic energy right at Manoj, just bullying him relentlessly. I mean, their audacity is right out there in the open. Just listen to this. We went to the city together, we became nothing, but you finished your studies and are opening a hospital. Of course we are jealous. Driven by all that pure spite, they actually cornered Manoj late one night. They tried to force him to visit a haunted banyan tree as this twisted dare. Thankfully, his friend Sugna, who is a fellow orphan and deeply cares for him, stepped in and shut it down. But as we're about to see, these bullies were not going to give up that easily. Section 2. Terror at the pond. So the bullies eventually forced Manoj into a second, much deadlier dare. They promised to leave him alone forever if he video called them from the jungle pond. And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer terror of that night. Okay, picture this. It's midnight. Manoj, who's just desperate to be left alone so he can study, ventures out into the silent, pitch-black jungle and makes it to the pond. At 12:05 a.m., he starts the video call to Prathamesh and Mohit, just to prove he's there. But then, at 12:06 a.m., strange bubbles start rising from the dark water. And at exactly 12:07 a.m., while the bullies are literally watching through the phone, a mysterious hand shoots out of the water, grabs Manoj's leg, and violently drags him under. But guys, here is the massive twist to our story. The bully's master plan? It was actually supposed to be a prank. The idea was that Nitin would go to the pond ahead of time, hide, and then jump out and scare Manoj while he was on camera. But the bullies look up from their screen, and Nitin is walking right toward them. His bicycle had a flat tire. He never even made it to the pond, which means they suddenly realize, wait, if Nitin wasn't there, what just pulled Manoj under the water? Section 3. The Deadly Imposter. This is where the whole thing turns into a really gripping forensic mystery. The very next day, someone, or something, looking exactly like Manoj just strolls back into the village. Let's track the clues together because there are some major red flags here. First, Manoj is missing all day, and when Sugna finally finds him wandering near the jungle, he's in a complete daze, just mumbling that he went somewhere. Second, he absolutely refuses to leave his house during the daylight hours. And third, when Sugna goes to visit him during the day, he rudely turns her away. He talks to her from behind a closed door, saying he's sleeping and to come back at night. Now, Sugna immediately senses something is terribly wrong. This behavior is completely alien to the kind, hardworking Manoj she knows. Well, the terrifying truth is revealed that very night. Nitin is out in the jungle, drinking and eating fish, when Manoj just emerges from the shadows. Except this imposter has an extreme animalistic craving for raw fish. He snatches it right out of Nitin's hands, and as he eats it raw, his skin literally turns a sickly blue, and his eyes start glowing this demonic red. Then his hair grows out unnaturally long, right in front of Nitin's terrified eyes. The imposter demands more fish, but Nitin doesn't have any left, so driven by this insatiable, monstrous hunger, the creature attacks. It sinks its teeth right into Nitin's shoulder, brutally tearing his flesh, and kills him. The village finds Nitin's mangled body the very next morning. Now, what's incredibly tragic here is that Sugna, who still has no idea there's a monster involved, actually thinks this is divine justice. She figures God is finally punishing the bullies for tormenting innocent Manoj. She has literally no idea what is actually walking around wearing his face. And the horror definitely doesn't stop there. The very next night, the imposter pays a visit to the second bully, Prathamesh. The creature violently bangs on the door, screaming, "I need fish, bring me fish." When Prathamesh refuses, the creature just forces its way in. Now, Sugna had been secretly following the imposter, and she's listening from the shadows in absolute terror as Prathamesh screams for his life. 2 bullies down in the most gruesome ways imaginable. Section 4. Legend of the Baak. Realizing that this absolute monster is definitely not the man she loves, Sugna makes a run for the village sarpanch, the headman. And this is where our explainer pivots from a murder mystery into a really fascinating lesson in rural mythology. Now, what's really interesting about the lore is how incredibly specific it is. The sarpanch explains that the entity is something called a basiak. According to the legend, a basiak is a shape-shifting demonic spirit that lives in isolated ponds. It traps humans who wander a little too close, takes on their exact physical form, and is driven by an obsessive need to feed on fish, or, if that fails, raw human flesh. By finally identifying the monster, the horror gets grounded in rules that we can actually understand. So let's look at the actual mechanics of this demon. The rules of the Baak are pretty clear-cut. Number 1, it only operates under the cover of night, which totally explains why the imposter was hiding during the day. Number 2, it's driven entirely by gluttony. But take a look at that last bullet point. This is the absolutely crucial part. Because the Baak is parading around on land as Manoj, it means the original real Manoj is being kept alive, trapped in this sort of mystical stasis underwater, which means there's hope. Section 5. Defeating the demon. Armed with the knowledge of what this Baak actually is, and the sudden hope that Manoj might still be alive, the sarpanch, Sugna, and the villagers know they have to act fast before this demon eats anyone else. Let's walk through this brilliant tactical plan the sarpanch comes up with. Step 1, they enchant a sacred bead, known as a rudraksha. Step 2, they hide this powerful artifact inside a piece of cooked fish. Step 3 is honestly the most poetic part. They use the last surviving bully, Mohit, as bait. Mohit has to sit out in the jungle at night, light a fire, drink, and loudly cook fish. And finally, step 4, once the ravenous demon eats the enchanted trap, it's going to be severely weakened, and they can force it back into the water, breaking its hold on the real Manoj. And you know what? The trap works flawlessly. The starving Baak, still disguised as Manoj, approaches Mohit's fire and just greedily scarfs down the spiked fish. Almost immediately, the enchanted bead kicks in. The demon starts screaming in agonizing pain as its dark powers begin to fade. Sugna, the sarpanch, and the rest of the villagers jump right out of hiding. They chase this crippled demon through the jungle until, with literally no other choice to survive, it throws itself back into the murky pond. And the aftermath here is just incredibly satisfying. Once the demon is back in the water, the pond settles down, a thick mist rises, and suddenly the real Manoj emerges from the water. He is completely unharmed, and get this, he has absolutely no memory of the total nightmare that just took place. Because he's back, his pure ambitions can finally become a reality. He achieves his life stream of opening the village's first government hospital, earning massive respect from everyone. And to top it off, he and Sugna get married and finally live happily together. Which leaves us with this final, lingering thought. The Baak was the literal monster of the pond, sure. But looking back at the whole sequence of events, wasn't human jealousy the real demon here? Think about it. If Nitin, Prathamesh, and Mohit hadn't been so consumed by envy, if they hadn't forced an innocent guy into the dark out of pure spite, that ancient evil would have just stayed asleep at the bottom of the water. It's a really powerful reminder that sometimes the supernatural horrors we fear the most are really just reflections of the darkness within ourselves. Thank you so much for joining me to unpack this incredible folktale today, and as always, keep your curiosity sharp.